to the matter of L within our county, Mr. Speaker. Now the honorable member, Mr. Speaker, is escalating, wanting to buy time, Mr. Speaker, in the name of going benchmarking. We are not going to benchmark on revenue. It is now we wanted you to benchmark on the issues affecting L within our county, not outside, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I think they are going outside their mandate, Mr. And the issue to do with revenue, Mr. Speaker, is domiciled under finance, Mr. Speaker. And for the matter of fact, the best
order, remember, let's consult in low tones.
The best county in the entire country, Mr. Speaker, who have done well in collection of revenue on health is Nyandarua, not even Muranga. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the honorable member is trying to mislead, Mr. Speaker, and to go outside their mandate in the name of wandering around. What we need to do is them to we need the status. Now after the status now is now, the resolution is now with guide us now on the way forward. What we need to know is the issues affecting health in our county. That is the only mandate which the ad hoc has been given.
Honorable members, thank you so much, honorable members, for your contribution. Of course, order, honorable members. Order. Order, the Honorable Ezra. Order, the Honorable Cheriot Bate. Order, the Honorable Moses, Dr. Moses Rotich. Order. Now, the honorable members, of course, I'd given an opportunity to the both ad hoc committee to give us the status and progress of the work that they have done so far. Of course, honorable members, listening to the Honorable Cheriot Bate, because I think that is where a lot of conversations have been witnessed here by the members. The terms of reference of the ad hoc committee was well spelled out. And the other thing again, that if you listen keenly to what the Honorable Cheriot Bate talked about, he started talking about the challenges of the motor vehicles, of course, that they have in this assembly. And made out a request that perhaps they even need off-road vehicles. I was tempted to think about, to almost conclude that perhaps the Honorable Cheriot Bate, if we give him an off-road vehicle, then he may have to travel to Nyandarua, Muranga, but only after the recommendations have been tabled in this house, so that we can now get and see whether, from the recommendations really, whether you can be able to benchmark, as you put it, in other hospitals, that even the Honorable Resident Majority has mentioned that Nyandarua is doing well. But I suggest that we stick to the terms of reference, and then from your recommendations, other things can come in. Honorable members, but whatever has been raised, we have noted the aspect also of the few challenges that you have. Of course, we have the office of the office of the majority leader here, who happens to be the link between the executive and the assembly. So those other challenges also should also be brought to his table or his office, so that perhaps they can act on them accordingly. Secondly, is that let's try to stick to the timeline that we have for the two ad hoc committees, and I may suggest to the ad hoc committee on health matters to rearrange their timetable if there is official communication from the office of the governor that the honorable CCs as well as the other staff are away on official duty. Perhaps you can finalize by visiting the health centers that you are supposed to visit, and then later you can now schedule to engage with the relevant officers. Honorable members, there is also status reports by the Health Committee Chairperson, the Honorable Eric B. Let me give you an opportunity to
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity just to give a progress report. And we had actually came up with as a committee, there was a report on the reshuffles which had actually occurred within the department. And as a committee, we sat down and we made an invitation for the CEC in charge of health, the CEO, and CS Dr. Bor to come on board to shed light on how they did the programming of the reshuffles. And Mr. Speaker, I bring to this attention that we've done cross-examination. We're only awaiting one last person, that is as chairman, Public Service Board, to give us a conclusive comments on the reshuffle. So as at now, Mr. Speaker, we are at the tail end. So possibly we shall bring the report to this house in next week. We shall table the report next week, this house. Thank you. And also, Mr. Speaker, we have another report on the visitation to Londiani Hospital, and the report is ready as of now. So probably if you give us time, you can table in the afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right, thank you so much, the Honorable Chairman for Health. The Honorable, well-noted Chairman, Health Committee, on that, I'm aware that after this session, you'll be having your liaison meeting, and I'm so sure that by the end of your business, you'll be able to maybe forward it to the House Business Committee to schedule for tabling in this house. But before we wind up, I'm more interested, and today this is almost full house, and the Honorable Chairman, Finance and Economic Planning, the Honorable Beth Basubin. We have had a number of directives from the chair that there was some business that you were to discuss or in your committee and perhaps reports back to the House. However, since it's kind of I've ambushed you, I want to direct you that in the afternoon session, you table your written progress report on all the agendas before your committee, and the plan that you have as a committee to ensure that those agendas are deliberated upon and be also tabled in this house for the members to also either to adopt or reject the various reports that is due. So I don't know whether that is in order, the Honorable Chairman, if it's possible. If that is okay, then we'll be expecting you this afternoon to give us that status report. Honorable members, as you realize that from our order of business from number 1 to number 6, we had none. And there was a commitment by the honorable members 2 or 3 weeks ago that they shall be serious and that we shall have agenda to deliberate on in this house. But that is not the case as that today. In fact, it's only progress reports that we have received from the honorable members. before we adjourn, I would like to give an opportunity to a few honorable members if there are any serious challenges or capacity challenges relating to these issues, so that perhaps we get to know really what is the main thing, the challenges that we have. As an office, of course, we have been facilitating you to various high-end hotels to go and do your reports, right? And we have also sat down, the clerk, that is the head of committee, has been scheduling. If you look at the weekly schedule, it's heavily packed, but the output, the input, you cannot compare the input and the output of what is of the reports that we have that is pending. The Honorable Paul Chichi, there was a commitment from your end that you shall be very committed. But do you have anything to say about that lack of agendas, lack of reports? And perhaps you can tell us you can give examples from your committee, the committees that you are in. The Honorable Paul Chichi, you are a member of which committees?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to put in my opinion in terms of committees. Mr. Speaker, sir, I sit in 3 committees, or 4. One of them, you are the chairman, Mr. Speaker, sir, and I think you are an able chairman. The other one is the Committee on Roads. The Honorable Gilbert Ngetich is also doing his work well, and the committee is as good as its members. We are able members, Mr. Speaker, and last week we had invited the CC and the CEO to respond on a statement that had been raised by the Honorable Anthony Ruto. And Mr. Speaker, sir, we will be tabling that report. The answers that were given by the CC and the CEO were sufficient. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Committee on Finance, Mr. Speaker, sir, where I am a member, has got very serious issues, Mr. Speaker, sir. Our chairman should be taken back on training, Mr. Speaker, sir, so that he pulls up his socks. But we are equal to the task. And Mr. Speaker, sir, the chairman needs to actually up his game, because the engine of this county, we cannot be tabling a budget without a finance bill that is up to date. Revenue collection in the county is below par, and as a committee, I think the chairman, who is supposed to be doing his work, Mr. Speaker, should actually do something, because the revenue leakages are very clear, and but I propose and request that you give us another 2 weeks, which I know the chairman will say something, and we'll do our work well. The other committee that I sit in is the Committee on PAC, and we are also doing well. Our chairman is doing a good job.
Yes, order, honorable members.
So those are the few committees that I sit in. The Rules and Procedures Committee, we also sit in, and you're the chairman. I think we are doing well. We even have a report, because we need to amend our standing orders to move with the current times, because we are a replica of the Senate. And I saw in the Senate will be inviting governors in their plenary. So as well, the County Assembly also should be inviting CECs to appear before this House in a plenary to answer questions. So I think we are doing well. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I also give my commitment that as a member in this assembly, serving my second term, we will be more serious than even the last assembly. So going forward, you'll be seeing results. The idea of next soon will be a thing of the past, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you so much, Honorable Paul Chichi, for your submission. Uh, the Honorable, before I will give to the Honorable, the Honorable Chairperson for Justice and Legal. A minute to, on submission on this matter. And the submission on that matter. And then I will also give to the chairman or committee on implementation. If not here, then the vice chair should be able to tell us something.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Even though I've come late, and I request to know what is going on, and then I will come back. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members. Order. Order, the Honorable Simon Koska. The Honorable Kiproti Chirogony. I guess you are a member of Justice and Legal. Or you want to make a point? Okay, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not a member of Justice and Legal. I'm actually rising to also echo what Honorable Paul Chirchir said before the House. First of all, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you on two things. One, the two other committees is a result of your initiative. None of us would have thought of coming up with that. I cannot talk about what we've done, Kazim Tahani, but there are a number of things that we will come and put before the House when the time comes. Mr. Speaker, my pertinent issue, I know budget is going to be tabled maybe later this afternoon. But Mr. Speaker, I've taken time to study the report from the Controller of Budget. And I guarantee this House, Mr. Speaker, if we go as per what is happening, then we are going to scale down on anything that we are supposed to do as a House. I'm talking about the revenues. My chairman is here. I have no problem with the chairman. But I wish, Mr. Speaker, through the same initiative that you did, come up with another ad hoc committee on revenue only. We want to invite the CEC in charge of finance every single month, this committee, to give us the status report. If you read, I cannot, and I can quote Kericho County, Mr. Speaker. Kericho County, with a projection of 1.2 billion, we are able to collect up to now 12.5% instead of 50%. There is a county like Nyeri, which did not submit anything with regards to FIF, but they have collected up to 230 million. Mr. Speaker, that tells you we are doing poorly and we are not saying anything. And this is what is going to affect what I'm doing in my ward. Mr. Speaker, think about anything. We can have, because what we get to learn about this challenge is because of a system. When you have a system that has been going on, that has been used to collect revenue, and it is stopped, that is a responsibility from the executive. And we are supposed to do as a committee, we are supposed to take them head on. Mr. Speaker, I'm really urging this House that this is a disaster in waiting. And I want to also tell my chairman, now that Honorable Paul Chirchir said, Chairman, you need to rise up to the occasion. And if there is any challenge, we are there as a committee to push you through, to help you, so that we report what we are supposed to report to this House. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I also want to urge the leadership. We have the majority whip. I think he was here. Majority leader is here. Mr. Speaker,
If you look at these numbers this morning, when we came in, we were hardly 15, but within 5 minutes, more members came in. I'm aware the president is now even going to enable us to get more pay. But the payment that we're supposed to get should be commensurate to what we are doing as a house. Mr. Speaker, what you've done is you've given us an opportunity to go out on doing reports out of this town. But when we come to the house, the output is almost zero. We are about to accept, Mr. Speaker, the punishment that you can give us, in that if you don't work, you don't get paid. So we support what you're doing, Mr. Speaker. I only want to urge my colleagues, let us be firm, let us stand, let us defend the people who sent us to this house. And as I end, we want, and I said this when we began, we want to see the rating of the speaker, not where it was the other day. And we can only make him the best speaker if we do the business that we are supposed to do as a house. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right, thank you so much, the Honorable Ogoin. The Honorable Lizon, your hand was up.
Thank you, Speaker, for the opportunity to comment on two issues, Mr. Speaker. And one, before I comment on those issues, Mr. Speaker, allow me to inform my chair, legal, Justice and Legal, Mr. Speaker, because he's not aware of what's going in the committee. Honorable Chair, while he was away, we stood with him, and we have a lot of business. We have almost 21 petitions in his committee. So we have a lot in the tray. So it's up to him and the HEPO Vice Chair to work hard and to ensure that we empty the tray. As we are speaking, we have assisted the committee to ensure that we write to the department to respond on some petition. Already we have started working on one. So I think he will come and join us and take up the matter. Otherwise, we have a lot of business in the committee, so it's him to consult the clerk and to ensure that the business in the committee is running. Mr. Speaker, another issue which...
yes, order. Let's consult in low tones, please.
Another issue, Mr. Speaker, which I wanted to commend, Mr. Speaker, is to urge the Honorable House and this Honorable Assembly, Mr. Speaker, that the history will judge us actually in future, because we are the current leaders in this dispensation. The issue to do with revenue, we have been talking it lightly, but now it is coming out clearly and more clearly. For the first time in history, Mr. Speaker, Kericho County has been rated among the top, the bottom 3, which we have never reached there since the history of devolution. And Mr. Speaker, surprisingly, we are at the bottom on revenue collection, and on top, we are the least in development absorption. It's really surprising. We are not able now to collect, and now we are not even able to spend what we have been given. So I think the best thing is we are disabled as a county. And this is not to executive alone. The people who are contributing to the failure of the executive is the county assembly, Mr. Speaker. And that is the reason why, since we were elected, we wanted us to know the separation of powers. You know, the problem now, we have become an extension of the executive. We have never held the executive accountable.
Order, Honorable Edna and Honorable Anthony Ruto. Order. After this, the Honorable is on finalize.
Okay, let me finalize.
Yes.
And Honorable Diaz can be a witness because he's the chairman liaison. If there is the committees, Mr. Speaker, the chairman of various committees, Mr. Speaker, has become a letdown to this county. And we better say that. Because like the last time, Mr. Speaker, the members of the executive, the CEOs and the CECs were always coming to the assembly to meet various committees to tell the status and to the status of the operation. But now, Mr. Speaker, when the executive want to meet, they meet with the chairmen out in the presence of the assembly. With the report which they are discussing can never see the light in the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker. That's why I'm saying we have become an extension of the executive. The slumber the executive are operating on is the slumber with the chairman of various committees, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, it's up to us now to decide whether we are ready to work for the people whom we are representing or we continue like this. Because we cannot be in the list of shame. In fact, we have been talking the issue of revenue budget since last year up to now, Mr. Speaker. There is a lot of leakages in the revenue in our county, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our county, if we will not look into, is going to docks, Mr. Speaker. On Sunday, Mr. Speaker, there is an incident I just posted in our group, Mr. Speaker. While I was coming from church, Mr. Speaker, I just stopped there, Mr. Speaker. Only to find, Mr. Speaker, some county officers, Mr. Speaker, stealing the government properties in a broad daylight, Mr. Speaker. One worker, Mr. Speaker, is going with a border, picking the entire gate, which was removed during the renovation of the stadium. The gate, which it was initial, was brought to be stored somewhere there. So he was taking the entire gate, Mr. Speaker. So I need not to be informed, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members.
I'm winding.
Let the honorable listen wind.
Let me wind up. So, Mr. Speaker, I had to intervene, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this laxity which is happening here is affecting the entire county, Mr. Speaker. So it's high time, Mr. Speaker, we take our work seriously, Mr. Speaker. Because if we continue in this direction, Mr. Speaker, we are doomed as a county, Mr. Speaker. So it is up to time, Mr. Speaker. Let's be objective. And objective oversight is not criticism, Mr. Speaker. If we can be friends with the executive, Mr. Speaker, by doing objective oversight. And the best friend is the one who tells you you have shot his stone at the back, not the one who is lying to you. So, Mr. Speaker, the rain has started beating us, Mr. Speaker, and we are doomed. So I urge the leadership of this House, Mr. Speaker, to wake up to the occasion and you assist us to simplify these things, Mr. Speaker. I know we have APO, the majority, and APO deputy speaker, and APO whip, Mr. Speaker, and their deputies. And these members are the senior members of this assembly, Mr. Speaker. And they know the operation, how we were operating last, Mr. Speaker. It's high time we take a U-turn and chart a serious way forward. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, we are really doomed. Right. I'm winding up, Mr. Speaker. There is a looming crisis on health. And people are not seeing this, Mr. Speaker. I said here last time that the issue to do with health was something which we had sorted long time ago. When we joined the assembly in 2017, we had a lot of issues to do with strikes of staffs and what have you because of lack of allowances and human resource capacity. But we handled those issues until the health department was one of the best. And we were voted among the best in the entire country on the issues to do with health. Even the small facilities, there is a time a small facility like Fort Vernon was rated the best in the entire country in TB sensitization, Mr. Speaker. But right now, the issue which is affecting health is a crisis which is existing. Because right now, our workers are striking. There is a mass exit from services, and there is no recruitment, no drugs. So I think those are the issues we need to handle, and we need to come up with laws on how to safeguard the interests of our people. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, let me wind up there.
Okay, thank you so much, the Honorable President, for that. But also let me remind you and every honorable member of your standing order number 101 on responsibility for statement of fact. And before I give to any other honorable member, the Honorable Simon Kosker, the Honorable Ezron Nyatic is also a member of your committee, is it? And he has mentioned that you have over 20, to be precise, 21 agendas or petitions in your committee. Can you confirm that? Is that the true position? That you have 21 petitions, the Honorable Chairman, before your committee? Okay. And of course, all the other things that have been mentioned here are very key things. And I just want to give to leadership, and then we summarize, because I can see if I will open the floor, everyone will like to speak about this matter. So I will give to three other than the leadership. And in this case, I'll give to the office of the chief whip, the office of the majority leader, and then our DS will finalize on leadership. Let me give to three only, allow me. I'll give to the Honorable Amos Birir, and Moses Rotich, and David Maritim. I know the Honorable Eric B, you have raised your hand, but let's allow these three, and then I'll give you a minute only after that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this chance you have given me. And actually, you want to support, you want to answer question which was raised by Honorable Ezron Kimwena for Chilgila. And I have been struggling all along. I was surprised when I was told that I'm not aware about my job. The chairman maybe was absent, but I was on duty. My witness is majority leader and chairman at the committee. I was present. Maybe he was hitting me with something else, not apart from this one. Actually, when my chairman was absent, I was on duty. That is why I raised up to support. Even I have some witness who was with us, even deputy majority leader she was in. Another thing, I had this all the time. We are talking of collection of revenue. It has been monotonous. We are sitting here and talking of how to prove collection of revenue. Actually, we have been discussing. We have never had that there is great improvement. We have started taking vehicles down there. We have never been given report whether we are going up or down. How can we work without money? Because you cannot support our country without finance. So I want to request those who are concerned with finance, let us work seriously. There is no need coming here and discussing about finance, and we have never seen an improvement. All the time, no money, no money. Or each and everyone is working for himself. We need, if those who are concerned collecting revenue are collecting for themselves, we better start changes. Let us use another method to see if this thing is working.
Yes, you finalize.
Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, thank you.
All right.
I was only standing to support what our members have said,
Okay.
but I want to tell my honorable member, I am always present. I have started changed myself. The way I was before, I have changed. I am now serious of NATO. Except only we set down last week. I was not happy the way we were treated here. Even Mheshimiwa Matthew, he was in.
Thank you so much, the Honorable Amos Birir. You know, I pronounce myself. I want to give to the Honorable Moses, or Honorable Maritim, and then I'll give a minute to Honorable Eric B. And then I'll move to leadership so that we can summarize. But the Honorable Matthew, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity on behalf of the great people of Tendena Soget, Mr. Speaker, where I represent. Mr. Speaker, this morning is one of the best mornings, Mr. Speaker, where the theme of lamentation has taken stage, Mr. Speaker. It has started from various sectorial committees, Mr. Speaker. And the call for lamentation, Mr. Speaker, is quite unfortunate because people who are supposed to offer a directive and a solution and support the committee level, Mr. Speaker, are the ones who are lamenting, Mr. Speaker. On the part of finance, Mr. Speaker, revenue is a thorny issue that is going to affect. The net effect is enormous, Mr. Speaker. It is a collateral damage, Mr. Speaker, in our entire operations of this county. Mr. Speaker, today, as we are talking, senior members are sitting in the committee on finance, Mr. Speaker. The Honorable Paul Chirchir. And Mr. Speaker, we have seen a reformed person. We have seen an energized person, Mr. Speaker, in Honorable Paul Chirchir. And when you are asking him, Mr. Speaker, on which committees he is sitting, Mr. Speaker, he somehow remained mute, Mr. Speaker, on that matter. But with the experts, Mr. Speaker, the expertise they have, the level of historical institutional memory, Mr. Speaker, they have, we want to urge the Committee on Finance, the membership, Mr. Speaker, they should not come here and lament, Mr. Speaker. They need to support the chair. And if in any case, Chair, there is a problem in the committee because revenue. Without revenue, we are having a collateral damage in the entire 30 wards, in the entire operations of this county. So, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, Mr. Speaker, and your directive, Mr. Speaker, we request, Mr. Speaker, that you direct this committee, Mr. Speaker, to lock themselves in a room, Mr. Speaker, and bring us solutions towards revenue collection, Mr. Speaker, so that at the end of the day, they should not be part of lamentation. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of independence of this assembly. Honorable Ezron, Mr. Speaker, talked of being part of the executive. Mr. Speaker, we are independent in matters of operation, in matters of oversight, Mr. Speaker. We want to urge each and every committee, Mr. Speaker, there was a purpose as to why we need to have various committees. So that at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, in the committees that I don't sit, Mr. Speaker, and maybe for the purpose of record, Mr. Speaker, I sit on committee on health, committee on justice and legal, Mr. Speaker. I also sit on the committee on roads, Mr. Speaker. It is now high time, Mr. Speaker, to avoid the issue of next. There is no order in the House, Mr. Speaker, that you direct timely each and every committee, Mr. Speaker, to table progress reports, Mr. Speaker. On the operations, maybe on roads, Mr. Speaker, they table the entire works that were rolled out in a financial year, Mr. Speaker. Same to agriculture, Mr. Speaker. Same to water, so that members who don't sit in those sectorial committees, Mr. Speaker, get posted and updated on the same. Mr. Speaker, it is high time that the senior ranking members in this House, Mr. Speaker, and we are privileged, Mr. Speaker, our majority, Mr. Speaker, is on his second term, Mr. Speaker. The DS, Mr. Speaker, who is also the chair, Liason, and a member, Mr. Speaker, of the Finance Committee, Mr. Speaker, up their game, Mr. Speaker, so that at the end of the day, operations, directives, Mr. Speaker, are adhered to. Our whip, Mr. Speaker, is also a second timer, Mr. Speaker. And also I understand there are people, we call them FTs, Mr. Speaker. We need operations. We need to have value on the positions you are holding, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, with those very few remarks, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Honorable Moses, for your submission. The Honorable Maritim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. As I came to the floor, Mr. Speaker, sir, I was told I am a 1 minute man, and I'm also 1 minute man. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I'm a very happy man, Mr. Speaker. This year, I'm a very happy man as the chair delegated committee on county legislation, Mr. Speaker. Right now, we have legal officers who can help us do our businesses. So, Mr. Speaker, you have been insisting for the output from committees, Mr. Speaker. And I want to remind you, Mr. Speaker, you will never reap where you didn't sow, Mr. Speaker. Last, Mr. Speaker, we were in Nakuru. We had a facilitator from Turkana. And he recommended that delegated committee, the implementation committee, and the PAC committee should be trained. And the House leadership agreed, including majority here, including DS there. But nothing was done, Mr. Speaker. So I'm requesting, Mr. Speaker, we need capacity building, then we shall do our job perfectly, Mr. Speaker. I am very serious chairman in matters delegated. I'm very serious member in matters health, Mr. Speaker. I'm fortunate to have trained in medical field, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, thank you. God bless you.
All right, thank you so much, the Honorable Maritim. That one, the Honorable, maybe majority of the DS, you will touch on the matter of building capacity. Because I think the Honorable Chairman delegated, you know, you have been in this assembly now for almost 2 years. But I know learning is and training is an ongoing process. But that does not mean that the agendas in your committee should not be dispensed with. We should always burn our midnight oil and engage high gear when it comes to our committees. However, on the aspect of building capacity on the 3 committees, perhaps it has not, I have noted the same, and maybe the majority of the DS will touch on the same. The Honorable Eric B, so that I'll give to the Honorable Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, once again for giving me an opportunity. Mine will be brief. I've heard what members have said. And with me, Honorable Speaker, I want to give a solution. For this House to succeed, I think based on the discussion by honorable members, we should make an agreement so that every week we should have 2 sectoral committees presenting their report. The same case like that, Honorable Speaker, so that we avoid the issue of probably attacking the members, because what I've heard here is that there is a push and pull. The members are claiming especially other members in terms of the committee. So what I'm suggesting is that let's buy this idea that in this week, Mr. Speaker, we can say we shall be having 2 sectoral committees, for example, health report and the land report, Mr. Speaker. And the other week, the same case like that, so that we move with speed, so that each and every time we come to this house, we should not be pushing and bullying our others, Mr. Speaker, because from the sentiment from Honorable Esrod, it's like he has an idea, but it's like he's want to drag to other honorable members. That will not be good, Mr. Speaker, because if you look at the issue of revenue, supposing we are delegated this issue, for example, as a chair, finance, to give us a report in this week, and we discuss the same report from Tuesday and Wednesday, Mr. Speaker, so that we deliberate once and for all, because we know we have challenges. When it comes to the committee level, as a chairman, you are pushing the members to come to your committee. Sometimes you may not get the quorum. For example, Mr. Speaker, the last 1 week, we had delegated the ad hoc committee 2. We've been pushing for the members to come for the meeting. But by and large, we are able to succeed. But what I am suggesting is that let us not have that issue of push and pull. Because from the discussion here, members are saying there are some other committee who are not doing their work. I want to say it's not that like that, because each and every member here has a mandate, and we are coming on the same capacity. So as a finance, I know we have an issue, but I know they are going to do it. We've been given a task that by this and this week, they should be presenting their report. Mr. Speaker, and also in terms of revenue, I have an area in my ward. They have never collected revenue for the last 3 months. Reason being, the executive has not met the requirement from the locality. So it is not the issue of an honorable member who is in this other side, but it should be the executive. So I support the issue of tasking the chairman for this, for a specific week, to bring their report fully tabled in this house. Mr. Speaker, lastly, I have had the issue of health, and I want to thank you because of the ad hoc committee you formed. Mr. Speaker, when you are doing budget, we had several discussions with the committee members on budget. The bottom line here is, yes, we don't have the personnel, but the issue of finance. We don't have money to do recruitment. And I support this honorable member because I came on board and requested them to give us fund so that we confirm, we employ, and also we replace. So I think the issue, if we do those 3 things, we confirm, replace, and employ, that will have sorted the issue of health. Otherwise, I support the discussion. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
All right. Thank you so much, Honorable Eric B., for your submission, and especially on the recommendation bit. However, just to remind you and other honorable members, as per our standing order 96, on proceedings of select committee not to be referred to. And on this particular matter, on the ad hoc committees that are ongoing, of course, the substance of the proceedings of the select committee has not been tabled in this house. However, your point is noted. The Honorable Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to join hands with my colleagues in probably 2 issues, Mr. Speaker, that I noted in this house. Mr. Speaker, one, the issue that touches on revenue collection. Mr. Speaker, Chairman of Finance, I'm aware that he's been trying, but probably we need to also request other members probably to support your chair. Because you see, there's no need that the chair we've been requesting the chair every now and then. But then the chair himself cannot probably have his members appear before his committee. That is my request, Mr. Speaker, because I have seen that most of the members that are present in the same committee is the likes of Honorable Paul Chirchir, the likes of Deputy Speaker. Those are senior members, Mr. Speaker. So I want to request those senior members to assist the chair finance. That is number 1. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, I want to also join hands again in requesting the chair finance. Chair finance, the other day, I was actually complaining that the Kapsuser market which is actually in my ward, has been collecting about 1,500 shillings in a day, which is, Mr. Speaker, is not commensurate to the work and the business people that are doing business there. So, Mr. Speaker, I think this one we should rise to the occasion and make sure that we give them targets. Because if you say we are collecting 1,500, really, it is not commensurate to the work that is going on there. So probably we need also to up our games. And I think that one is something that I raised when we had a meeting in Mombasa. And I want to repeat this again. It will not be business as usual if we don't collect revenue. So it's good that we are on record, Mr. Speaker, so that again we don't also always keep referring to the same. So, Mr. Speaker, I will also be seeking statement probably on whether there has been any increase in the same. Because you see, this was last year. I want to request for the statement probably on the same committee to request the executive to give us probably if they have been maintaining on 1,500, probably then we need to know where is this problem. So lastly, Mr. Speaker, I also want to request members, because like the Honorable, the members of Justice and Legal Affairs, Mr. Speaker, I noted very clearly that the chair requested more time, and I think going forward, like last time when we were requesting the vice chair of the same committee, the members were actually coming to my office requesting that the vice chair and the chair were not there. And we wanted to do a serious meeting here. I was seated with most of the members, Mr. Speaker, in the tree just outside the assembly, Mr. Speaker. And they were really complaining. The members of the same committee were really complaining. So it's good to take note by the chairman and the vice, which is Honorable Pirir, that we should always be present whenever there are meetings in the assembly. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I want to say, let's take our committee meetings seriously. Thank you very much.
I thank you, the Honorable Majority Whip, for your submissions. The Honorable Majority Leader, Honorable Philip Ron.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Order, Honorable Chief. Order, the Honorable Chief.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know even what to say today, because you see the other time we were seated in this house and everybody did commit that from that day there is seriousness in our various committees will present itself immediately after we talked. Mr. Speaker, the members of this house, Mr. Speaker, they understand very well what is in the standing orders on committees that are not working, Mr. Speaker. They are supposed to initiate maybe the changes from their committees, Mr. Speaker. You remember the other time we talked, and they say they were on the lucky commitment and they had committed now to start working, Mr. Speaker. And they intervened, or they requested us not to initiate changes, Mr. Speaker, to those committees. But today, Mr. Speaker, they are still the one complaining, Mr. Speaker. I was shocked, Mr. Speaker, to see members of a committee complaining on the absence of their chairman, Mr. Speaker. And they have, you see, the standing orders, Mr. Speaker, is very clear. When the chair is absent, Mr. Speaker, the vice chair takes up, Mr. Speaker. When both are absent, Mr. Speaker, the standing order says the member sat and elect a chair from its members, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was shocked now to see members complaining on the same. We've not received any official complaint, Mr. Speaker, in our offices, Mr. Speaker. I checked in the morning, Mr. Speaker, whether I have anything on my table, Mr. Speaker, but there is nothing to that effect, Mr. Speaker. So my big question, maybe to the members, is the big question of, are we genuine in our complaints? I've had complaints to the Committee on Finance, Mr. Speaker, where several senior members are sitting in that committee, Mr. Speaker. But to that effect, Mr. Speaker, I've never seen even an attempt of
official complaint to our desk, Mr. Speaker, maybe to start instituting the changes in those various committees, Mr. Speaker. So the big question here, again, is, are we genuine even in our complaints? Are we serious in our work? Are we committed the same way we said in the last 2 weeks that we are starting now the journey very well, Mr. Speaker, given that we were aware of various challenges that we were facing, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Cheriot Pate, Mr. Speaker, stood here and talk of various challenges that he is facing in this committee, Mr. Speaker, or the committee is sitting in, Mr. Speaker. Have he tried his level best maybe to issue an official write-up maybe to those effects, Mr. Speaker. The issue of Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, Mr. Speaker, they've been complaining, but to that effect, Mr. Speaker, we've not received any official complaint, Mr. Speaker. That's why the chair came here, Mr. Speaker. He is not aware, though he has confirmed that in his disposal, Mr. Speaker, he has more than 20 reports in his disposal, Mr. Speaker. But my question is, the same members of that committee, have they complained on anything? How far as members, even if the chair was absent, the vice chair stood here, Mr. Speaker, and he said he has been taking charge. He has been generally available. What have they been doing with those reports for all those time? So, Mr. Speaker, it's upon us as honorable members now to be genuine in our complaints and follow the due procedure that is well stipulated in the standing orders. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, you will also hear that maybe the office of the leader of majority is maybe switch-handing somebody. Immediately we start going into committees, Mr. Speaker, without official complaint from the members, Mr. Speaker. It will look like it becomes a witch hunt, Mr. Speaker. So those committees, and I want to state it here, Mr. Speaker, and it's good that we are on record, those committees that you think the chairs are not working, give us a formal complaint to our offices. Our offices, Mr. Speaker, despite the challenges that they are too small, but they are working, Mr. Speaker, and they are 24-hour open, Mr. Speaker. We have secretary sitting here, sitting in there, Mr. Speaker, and every time we call to ask maybe, even when we are out, Mr. Speaker, to ask whether there is something in our tables, Mr. Speaker. Our tables are always very clean, Mr. Speaker. We are waiting for the job, but we've not got the job, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
All right, the Honorable Majority, the Honorable, thank you so much for your submission. The Honorable DS, so that we summarize. The Honorable DS, please. Please.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance to also contribute on the matter at hand that you brought before this House this morning. Mr. Speaker, sir, is the Chair Liaison Committee. My role is to coordinate with all the chairpersons, including even the new committees. The other committee chairperson report to the Liaison Committee as well, because all committees are supposed to report through Liaison Committee. Mr. Speaker, sir, on this issue this morning, I want to echo the sentiments of the minority and my colleagues here today, that there's no better way than to be committed by members of the committees and the chairpersons. And leadership of the committee requires commitment from the chairperson first, and the vice chair, and of course the members. And we have had several meetings in Kamukunjis trying to agree on the way forward. And this morning, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to remind the chairpersons that you need to take charge of your committees. We have the weekly schedule, committees being sent by our clerks faithfully every week, yet we see laxity amongst our members and the committee chairs. So it is just to remind you that you have a duty that you must be able to implement in your committees. My office that I do liaison, as a liaison chair, I remain committed. In fact, this morning, Mr. Speaker, sir, I have called for a liaison committee meeting just to see how far we are going in terms of all the committees. Remember again, Mr. Speaker, sir, we requested for meeting outside the presence. All the committees were in Nakuru. We are looking at the half-year reports for all the committees. And there are committees which reported zero work for the last half year. Again, we are in the second half of the year. By June again, we're supposed to come with another report to report before this House. So it is very disturbing to report zero work or less committees for 6 months, and yet money has been given. Your office has been able to facilitate members to go for those high-end hotels, and there's no reports. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, as about standing order number 195, the Committee on Liaison will be tabling a report of all the committees in a week's time, because all the committees have been able to submit the report for what they have done for the last 6 months. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, we'll have very serious recommendations which we will recommend in that report, which may include also recommending that those committees who are not doing well, that they need to be reconstituted so that now we can have a new phase and fresh of leaders in those committees. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, we will be giving that report in a few weeks' time, and that will form the basis of what we'll do moving forward. The last, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to remind members that we are rehearsing our lives beyond our time here in office here. Long after we have left this office of being called honorable members, we shall go back to our various destinations, and the culture that we have removed, that we have cultivated here, will go to where we will be, and our success will determine whether we were faithful as members of the county assembly or not. If we are faithful, I can predict that we'll also be having a good life out there. If we are unfaithful, I'm sure our lives will be different. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to also say that I remain committed as the chair liaison, and I want to ask my members that, please, let us not talk more. Let us do what we are required. If Mr. Speaker, sir, as I come to an end, I was looking at why was ad hoc committees formed. And I was thinking myself and say, probably, if the committees who were supposed to be doing oversight were doing the work perfectly, I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, sir, there was no need for ad hoc committee to be formed. But because of laxity, there were issues being raised across the county, and the shortcut was to use the ad hoc committees. So if we were to move like this and have our committees working very well, I'm sure there's no single day will be required to form an ad hoc committee, which in this case is just a committee to solve an urgent problem which the committees have failed. So the more we do not do our committees, the more we'll have more committees to do a problem which the committee should have formed. And so for me, it's like duplication, Mr. Speaker, sir. In fact, I know to be an audit query that why do we have about 3 ad hoc committees, yet we have a substantive committee? And the answer is because the committee is not doing its work. So let's do as required. If we do like that, each committee will be able to do and excel, and we shall have reports which will really work for the sake of our county assembly. This is the third assembly, and this is the third assembly of the county, which in my own view, we have done 10 years. So in progression, we should be moving as a progressive third assembly, because there has been progress from the first and second assembly. This third assembly must rise and show leadership and do what is required. So let us all rise, let us be committed, and let us save this house, because we shall be charged harshly at the end of our term. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me end there, because if I continue, I think I will not end with good remarks. But I remain committed. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, the Honorable Adias. Well summarized. I think you have summarized it well, and the honorable members should note what you have said. And just to quote you is that they rise up, they be committed, and be firm in their roles of oversight. As you put it clearly, if our committees perform well or optimally, then we should not be able to be discussing this in a session where we should be having order of business to discuss as an assembly. Honorable members, we have come to an end to our morning session, and there being no other order of business, this assembly stands adjourned until this afternoon at 2:30.